Well, that was a great weekend. So the Glasgow Whisky Festival 2023 has been and gone, and I certainly made the most of my time in Scotland. From distilleries to blind tastings, chatting with like wonderful whisky people, and just many drams. I'm filming this a good few days since coming home, and as you can tell, my voice still isn't quite back yet. But I've decided today I'm going to quickly run through what went on and any tips I would give folk going to the festival in 2024 and beyond. So welcome back to Jeff Whiskey. I'm Jeff, chatting whiskey. Let's crack on. Jeff Whiskey. It generally has felt like an age since I've been behind the camera. I've still got all the Oswald stuff hanging around. That was the last time I was behind the camera, and in truth, I feel remarkably rusty and like I've had to reset up the lighting, so hopefully it's fine. In this video, I've used a lot of my photos, but also some photos that have been shared from the events. I've tried to include the people below, but if I've missed you, let me know and I'll give you proper credit. But anyway, this is my first time at Glasgow Whisky Festival, and I really did try to make the most of it. And to capitalise on the weekend, I flew up very early on Thursday morning and then travelled back on the following Monday. The night before I travelled, it was like Christmas. I could barely sleep. I had the alarm set for 2:30 in the morning, and I kind of hit the airport ready for my flight at 7. Everything went well apart from this very bumpy flight, which left me feeling like a little green for a few hours after. But luckily the adrenaline was keeping me going. I can feel my voice is already going again, and there's going to be a lot of waffle here, so I need a dram. Smooth. Oh, that's better. With landing into Glasgow, super easy, and I would recommend grabbing the bus into the centre, dirt cheap, and then I pretty much jumped from that bus onto another bus which was going to Stirling, and there I jumped off at the Glengoyne Distillery. Everyone who I chatted to were super chatty and friendly. There was this lovely lady talking about her whisky experience, including falling for a special bottle of Aqvavitae despite not liking whiskey. And the driver was like a top man. He gave me plenty of warning for the stop, even though you couldn't miss it. Before my tour started, I had 40 minutes to kill, so I kind of wandered around like a kid in Toys R Us. I visited the little waterfall at the back, and it felt like that kind of, a big breathe out moment. It was quiet, tranquil, and it was just a lovely relaxing moment after the travel. I then jumped on to the Glengoyne tour, and it was just the basic tour and tasting that I'd done. There was only a small group, and overall it was really good. In truth, Glengoyne's not a distillery I've really explored or have that much interest in, but it was the closest Scotch distillery, and in truth it didn't disappoint. I've really enjoyed their Legacy Series 2, but the core range, not really my jam. The tour guide was great, and they ran through all the classics before stopping for a dram of the 10-year-old and the 15-year-old, and that was in this really nice little house in front of the water. I really enjoyed the nuttiness of the 15, but it couldn't match the price they were asking. But yeah, overall, great experience Glengoyne, my first Scotch distillery done. Hopped back on the bus. The bus stop is literally outside the gates, and then travelled back to the city centre, and with the goal to wearily walk back to my hotel for a tactical nap. However, instead I decided to pop into the Good Spirits Co for a nose, and then I bumped into both Ralfy and the wonderful Whiskey and Wine Trails Tom. Ralfy gave us the full tour of his exhibition, and it was a salute to his 1,000 reviews, and he was just flowing with stories. They were running a sake tasting in the middle of the room, so it was super cool that they let us walk around them and have a gander.
Suck it to me, baby!
From what I thought would be a quick pop in, it turned into a lengthy delight of a chat, and then I decided to continue my adventure to the hotel. Now, a bonus tip, I stayed at the Arto Hotel. It's a great location for Central Station, but from my experience, far from great. From a TV which only had 2 fuzzy channels, a cold shower, and the biggest downfall was the fact the window didn't even close. It certainly made sleeping a bit more like camping than a hotel stay, but whiskey keeps you warm. Then Big Friday rolled in, and it was a big one. Firstly, we had breakfast with the good folk of the Laing Battalion. Then me and Chris, you know him as the Last Drop, We went and met with some other amazing like whiskey tubers, whiskey folk for like a booze-filled day, and that was all organised by none other than Vin PF himself. We started out at Douglas Lane HQ, and it was a great way to start. They had this glorious room set up with these comfy chairs, sofas, and just a wall of cask samples and bottles. I think we started with like a Meet the Beast, which was this punchy start, and then it just got wild. There was a phenomenal refill hogshead Lecheg 25, which just like touched my soul, and I wanted to sit in a corner and just have a quiet moment with it. There was a 1997 Clyneish and this like wild Lafroig. One of the cask samples was from a recommendation from Ronnie, and that was a Cambus grain whiskey, which in truth, I've never even heard of Cambus, and that liquid was just gold. He also kindly gave me a sample when we met up on the Sunday, but I'll get to that. Annie at Douglas Lane, you were absolutely brilliant. Great fun, great knowledge, and yeah, you let us go wild and really was a truly phenomenal start to a day. But if that wasn't big enough, we then moved on to Glasgow Distillery. For a distillery that doesn't do public tours, they have a great tasting room.
7 Libby
Gave us a stellar in-depth tour of it all, and it was fascinating to see. For like the amount of liquid I see from them, I was surprised by how small a setup they had. We tried an amazing array in the tasting room, and I really connected with their triple distilled. Like that was the first dram we had there, but these like punchy coconut and fruits just really stayed with me. I think I also ended on that one. Their peated whiskey is great, and they now do a peated cask strength, and we saw some very exciting stuff coming out from them soon, but we wasn't meant to see those boxes apparently. I don't know. Good marketing. I've been a fan of Glasgow Distillery since first enjoying the melon bomb that is Malt Riot, and yeah, this was just a great tour and like amazing experience. We then all squeezed into an Uber, and possibly my first Uber. That doesn't exist down in Bumpkinland. We grabbed some amazing food at Makia and Ramen, which was a great shout by Scotchtographer before like diving into the wild and packed pot still. It was amazing seeing so many barflies, dram faces, bottle slappers, and just like whiskey tubers and whiskey folk. I tried a couple of very good Glenmorangie warehouse editions, as well as I was handed a mystery pour, which really stunned me. Thank you to whoever that was. There were just so many awesome folk in there. It was like great chat and just, yeah, an amazing time. I chatted with Leanne about the rule of when you're precious, it's time to go home, which I didn't see anyone at that state. Then Roy turned up, and he's like a man who knows how to give a real welcoming hug. Like, I'm sure people cheered when he came through the door, or maybe that was just my like admiration for him as he came in. I heard he went to like a Springbank tasting before this, so I made sure I was quick to secure my festival ticket from him just in case he disappeared. A fair few hours passed, and it truly was amazing. Like coins, coaster, drams, it was just all swapped around. And then we called it a night, ready for the big day, the day that I've been making you wait for, Saturday, the Glasgow Whisky Festival. So it started with a Big Spoons breakfast. Other food places are available, and it just got busier and busier. Whiskey folk who've like travelled from all over. But with food in our bellies, we headed to Hampton Park, where we managed somehow to get to the top of the steps. Looking around, it was like a game of Where's Wally, just spotting all your favourite whiskey folk. The session 1 doors flung open. I chucked my coat in and then was straight up into the steps into whiskey heaven. And that's the end of part 1. Thank you for joining me. Imagine if I'd done that. Would be funny. Think I'll lose subscribers though. So I managed to get into the first room where it was still quite empty. I think I started off grabbing a Glencadam 15 as like a friendly opening, and it didn't disappoint. My goal was to go and finally try again to try remember having the 10, but the 15 for some reason called to me.
Go on, drink me, you know you want to do it.
I think I followed that by the massively overlooked dram of Tom and Tao 16. Like I've got a bit of a soft spot for the gentle dram. Now after chatting with Hamish, Doogie and the whiskey mechanic Jackie, we found ourselves at the Thompson Bros table. And I think I had is it Laurel's blend? The one with the Jeep on the front? Great stuff. Great chat. And then I think possibly we went to the Dunvilles. In truth, I kind of gave up trying to keep track, mainly due to just how amazing chatting away with folk was. Whatever whiskey I tried from there, it was good, but I wasn't blown away by it. Then North Star was next, and I had this like stunning 10-year-old Linkwood. They did have the full tarot card bottle, which is on my list to try, but I thought I'd come back. Sadly, that didn't happen. Then going by my photos, it was the Aaron 17, which was really good. Like it's quite a strange one in terms, there's like a little bit of sulphur, but lots of this creamy, nutty, punchy fruit. But next to them was the star of the show for me, Brook Laddie. I know I've said a few times that On paper, I love the distillery and what they're doing, but the whiskey itself was not really gelled with me. But I tried their beer barley, and man, this was cheesy. But like a full cheese platter with apples, fancy chutney and all that stuff. I think I even walked away and had to come back as I was sipping this one. Graham, the man behind the counter, was an absolute delight. Really awesome dude, full of knowledge and just like sucked me into the Brookladdie story. Of course, he was up for the slap.
He loves it.
In fact, I got him to do it again as I filmed the first one in portrait mode. I then moved on to possibly the table that was on the other side. I don't know. I've got a map somewhere. But yeah, Loch Lomond, where I had the 14-year-old. Not sure why I picked that one, but it was very good. Like, it was heavy, yet still light, full of robust fruit and this little burnt sugar or something. Michael Henry was behind the stand, and it was like a great bloke to chat with. And later he became my rival for the next day, but we'll get to that. I'm going to have to check my notes now. So there was a Hunter Lane Talisker 2011 11-year-old old malt cask sherry finished. That was super tasty, and I really do like Talisker, but this was 160 quid a bottle, so that was great to try and moved on. And speaking of pricey boys, I tried the Kilhoman 16-year-old. Now, this wasn't a bottle they had on the shelf, but everyone was just constantly asked to try it because we knew it was there. This was the only bottle I was aware of before and kind of excited to try beforehand, and in truth, it fell a little bit limp. Maybe it was just that time at the festival, but when people mentioned the massive price, I knew it wasn't for me. I would happily stick with the amazing Aqvavitae. There was this Tullibardine cognac finish or maturation or something, and that was one of the bottles that's not listed, but that was an amazing thing to try. That really stuck out for me on the day. Also managed to try a 25-year-old Springbank in fresh rum barrels, which every sip I tried it changed. From musky ripe fruits to baby sick near the end. When I had that one in the glass, that was a case of, okay, find everyone who I've been chatting to and get them to give it a sniff and to try it because it's a bit special. I then went to Single Cask Nation and I had the Westland 9-year-old, and that was like very tasty, like very, very good. Westland is real ticking my boxes. Sounds a bit inappropriate. In truth, I think that was the last dram I had. I really hoped to try. There was this Whiskey Sponge 20-year-old Port Charlotte, but sadly, when I got to the stall, they were calling it a day, or at least calling it for that session. In truth, looking back through the booklet, there was so much I missed, from like Loch Lee to Pocono. White Peak was there, but there was just so much going on. My goal going in was to have around 5 drams. I'm not the biggest drinker in terms of quantity, so I didn't want to kind of overdo it. And also, I was the only person that I saw in a wild shirt, so if I fell over, I'm pretty sure it'd be hard to hide it. But for me, the highlight of the festival was chatting with people. I talked about Bell's palsy with this awesome dude who is currently battling it. I explained the tiny hands things to someone who saw me in the Oswars. Like, some people knew who I was, which is mad. I bumped into like the brilliant John Drinks, now John Drams. Ralfy was strolling around, the brilliant Kevin Grant, so many barflies and bottle slappers. It really was amazing. At times, it generally could have made me well up how nice folk was about this daft channel of mine. Like, if I forgot you, let me know in the comments. Ping me a message on social media. It'd be great to have a chat with everyone who I met there. So yeah, the festival was amazing. The first hour went like normal, but the rest just flew by in a second. But I'll come on to that later with my tips for people planning on going to the 2024 Glasgow Whisky Festival and beyond. Probably any big whisky festival. So with session 1 coming to an end, we're all kicked out and we somehow managed to just all be like drawn to each other, like whiskey magnetism. And we aimlessly wandered to the buses around the corner, which took 102 barflies to Akbar's restaurant. And that was just surreal. In truth, I did debate having a quick nap on the bus journey, but I held strong. I knew there would be some photos taken if I did that. Now at the restaurant they managed to squeeze 102 folk in, and I've heard lots of amazing things about it before I went, and yeah, it lived up to the hype and then some. The lamb chops were amazing. They were just like bringing out curries, naan breads, rice, beers. It was wonderful and in truth well needed. I chatted with a lot of folk there who I didn't manage to see at the festival itself. Like I met Stuart Whiskey Whims, Gav's Drams, and it really was a great meal and it kind of braced ourselves for the gentle stroll to Bon Accord. Now, even though this video is a lot of me blabbering on, I've never talked so much as I did at the festival, so I did on the walk down decide to pop next door to Tesco and grab some throat sweets, bracing myself for the hoarse voice tomorrow. As you may be able to tell now, still not working. Walking into the Bon Accord, it was amazing. Like, Roy sorted out the first drinks, and due to my indecisiveness, it led to someone ordering me another blind whiskey, which in my head I thought it was a Kilkerran, but couldn't be sure. There was just so many wonderful whiskey folk in there, and they were like all so generous. I tried this really interesting clay whiskey and some amazing dram more from Alan the driver's dram. I felt like I made a lot of friends that night, and I was able to put some faces to names of people who I've talked to online. There was 2 great lads who travelled down, and one wasn't even that into whiskey and was being the chauffeur, but it was great sitting with them and talking about what this strange thing is whiskey tube is. It did get a little odd when we were all quite abruptly told that we had to leave a section of the pub as it was for VIP and that only. I think it was meant to be that the festival exhibitors only in that section, but there were like other folk who was kind of like trapped in there, and we kind of all felt a bit forced out. So at that point, I kind of felt it was a good idea to head and brace myself for the last full whiskey day. I did bump into Jim and the brilliant Hallian battalion in the hotel bar and ended the night just like full of laughs and being inducted as an honorary member. Also, I learned that Schweppes, not lemonade, and instead is this disgusting tonic water. Right, and to the last part. If you stayed this long, thank you. I should have really done this as like a live stream or something. I thought this would be like a 10-minute video, but I think I'm recording 30 minutes so far. But if you're still here, please do pop a like and all that jazz. It shows YouTube that I'm not a complete waste of space. But skipping forward to the Sunday afternoon, the Aqvavitae Blind Challenge, it was hosted in this fancy casino building with our own room, and I think there was like 70 odd people in there. The folk running the casino were brilliant. They collected and washed glasses, they moved tables, and they gave us free vouchers to try win our luck on the roulette. I think maybe 1 or 2 people came quids in. During the blind tasting, Roy foolishly made me one of the team captains, where he had printed off labels and forms for the table, all with the slappers across the top, which he decided to be our team name. Luckily, I think most people on the team were aware that it's like an affectionate term, and no one took it badly. But yeah, it was great fun. My team was awesome, and I certainly was the dead weight of the lot. Kevin had a brilliant full marks, which carried us into the top half of the teams, which I was very proud of. Overall, it was great fun. It was great seeing people's whiskey thoughts, and there's slight consensus of what everyone liked most and not. I did learn that Injury Trini, the world whiskey hype beast, not for me. One of the cheesiest lactic drams I've ever had, and the Ben Romac contrast, that's straight onto the wish list. But yeah, the blind was brilliant fun, but for me, one of the highlights was the relaxed like free-for-all at the end. It was captain's rules, where the captains of the teams were in charge of being behind the bar and pouring the drams. People were just so generous with what they brought, and there was some really outstanding stuff on the table. And I really enjoyed like chatting with the folk, hearing which one stands out, which one is already in their shopping baskets. I do naturally quite enjoy being behind a bar, and this was really great because everyone knew more than me, so I was able to absorb so much information pouring away. Like, I think I was behind that bar for a long time, and it was great. And like, people brought some amazing whiskey. Sevi brought out this stunning old Arran, and yeah, it was just a dream. So I called it a night semi early on, after all the big photos were taken and everyone was slowly starting to drop off, because I knew that while my energy was empty, my enjoyment was full. It truly was an amazing experience and a real cherry on top of the amazing trip. So to the people planning on going next year, the year after, whatever, my tips for you. Granted, I've only been to Glasgow Festival once, and I've only been to a small Bristol-based festival, so I'm no expert. But tip 1, brace and pace yourself. There will be a lot of whiskey on the go, whether just the festival or like the full weekend. I knew that by not overdoing it on any of these days, I was truly able to try and make the most of each event and each dram. Tip 2, plan your time. I know time really got away with me, which is completely fine. I think if I spent a couple of minutes though, going through the book, working out what I wanted to try, I think I could have streamlined my visit, but think over planning here could also be a downfall. 3, live in the moment, but if you can, try to catch it. Damn, that sounded really pretentious. But yeah, it was a phenomenal experience, like mind-blowingly good. The only thing is, I know my memory is trash, especially with names, faces, So looking back, I wish I took a few more like snaps to relive it. Like with all the wonderful bottle slappers I met, I'm truly honoured to meet people who not only put up with my videos but enjoy them. It would have been great to include their photos here as like a record of like I'm making a tiny little community of us. So if you do have any photos, like please send them through YouTube, social media, whatever, just find me and yeah, it'd be great to chat about it. Tip 4, chat to the folk beforehand. So the barflies is this massive community which spans a lot larger than the little chat window during the V-pub. There were so many awesome folk introducing themselves where I had like a vague sense of who they are, but I would love to have a bit more time to chat and connect with them. Like from my experience, whiskey people tend to be good people. And lastly, tip 5, don't book the Arto Hotel. Well, I'm joking. Kind of joking. Like it was dirt cheap. But I know more sleep would have been a godsend on this trip. Like preparation is key from where you are staying to having throat sweets and like a bottle of water ready. So for what truly was the greatest whiskey weekend I've had, I need to give a huge shout out to Roy Aqvavitae. He got me my ticket for the festival, he organised the blind tasting and is the reason the barflies are such an amazing community. Like my channel and me personally, I owe so much to this man. Vin, No Nonsense Whiskey. He organised an amazing Friday. And meeting him was like chatting with an old friend, even though this is the first time we've been face to face. And this was the same with the brilliant Chris the Last Drop, the super cool Ben Scotchographer, then to Whiskey Novice Jim, my fellow bumpkin Lee J and the wonderful Hallion Battalion. They took me in like an adopted lost duck as we braved our dodgy hotel together. Craig Dolier organised the bus and the brilliant Akbar's food. He just created a Facebook group and he had it all sorted for everyone. Ralfy for taking the time, like a good hour to chat away at his exhibition, and all the wonderful, wonderful whiskey folk I met. I would love to name drop you all, but I'm sure you know who you are. And finally, a big cheers to my amazing wife who took on both parent roles while I was away and constantly encourages and supports this mad journey. So all that's left to say is all the best and cheers to the next one. I'm going to go have a sleep.